Platoon. My name is Alex Taylor, and I'm a 35 Mike in the Illinois National Guard station in Chicago, and I'm an applicant for the Platoon programming course. The reason that I'm applying for the Platoon course, programming course, is on the civilian side. I work for JP Morgan, and I do some analysis, and been looking to get into more of that role, like an analysis role, data analysis. And when I look online for a lot of the positions, it's usually a requirement that you have some sort of uh, programming language skill, which I don't currently have, or I can't really show that I can do that. So um, the main reason that I'm applying for the school is for career mobility. I'd like to progress my career further, maybe get into different arenas, and I think that learning a programming language will definitely help open up different areas in which I can pursue and different industries. I'm not, strictly focused on working in the financial industry or any other industry. I just like to be able to do whatever comes available, whatever that sounds interesting, and I think this will give me the versatility to be able to accomplish that. Um, so let me look at this. So being in the National Guard has afforded me some really cool training, especially being in the military intelligence. And a big reason why I joined was the ability to go to Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California, and learn another language. I chose to learn Chinese Mandarin, and it was, up to this point, one of the most difficult challenges that I've ever had to face. So, really, what I did was I just took advantage of any resource I could. I asked so many questions, um, but mainly, yeah, just whatever resource was available on campus, uh, I took advantage of. That's the only thing that got me through is really that, and having finding something within the language that made me really interested in learning that. So, for instance, I like basketball, and so do the Chinese. They're really big into it. So I would take time out of the day to find out what was going on in their professional basketball league, and I would read that, and obviously in Chinese, and listen to clips in Chinese, and learn the vocab for basketball. And yeah, it just helped me generate more interest in it, and it was kind of a break from the mandatory stuff we were supposed to listen to into something that interests me. So it kept me involved in the whole process. Um, as far as doing something differently, I think that, and this goes for everything I've just learned over time, is to not be afraid to stumble. I think sometimes I didn't go out and try to do new things with the language, or something, because I was afraid it was going to be wrong and it might, look bad on me. But I've as I've gotten older, I've learned that, that's just, the stumbling is the way of learning. So I think I would have taken more chances and maybe gone out and try to find more people to talk to with the language than I had before. I was just kind of embarrassed of what they might feel, but now I don't really care. If I hear someone that might know Chinese, I'll maybe ask them a question. Um, but it all turned out well in the end. I passed the course, and I still maintain that same proficiency to this day. And that was um, about 8 years ago, and I take a proficiency exam every year. So, um, and I still have maintained that same score. There's been ups and downs, but right now, as of my last test, I had the same score as when I first passed that um, Chinese Mandarin course. So that's actually something I'm really proud of. All right, now for the fun part, I'm going to attempt to explain how I completed Easy Question 5. Easy Question 5 asks you to write a program called Is Leap Year that takes in a year string and returns true or false based on whether a given year is a leap year or not. So basically, it wants you to write a program where you put in a year, and then you run it, and it'll give you a true false statement whether it is true that it is a leap year or false. And it gives you a set of rules or set of rules where you can use that for determining whether or not it is a leap year. The first is any year that is divisible by 400 is a leap year. Of those remaining years, the ones that are divisible by 400, any year that is divisible by 100 is not a leap year, and any year that is divisible by 4 is a leap year. So what we can do, and I'm going to go old school and use some paper because I don't really know how to do this whole video recording thing. What we're going to do is we're going to write a function called isLeapYear that's going to take any year, and it's going to run them through those rules, and then it's going to output a true or false statement saying whether it is or it isn't. So first we'll go over what a function is. This function is just it's an object that's designed to perform a particular task, and it can be used over and over again. So once you determine a function, you can use it later in your code as well. First, you have the function. The first thing you want to do is you want to call it out. So basically, you type in function, and you're calling out. You're declaring the function at that point, and then you want to name it. So in this case, you want to name it isLeapYear. So I don't know if you can see that. Step 1. That's what we've done. So you can see, declare the function isLeapYear. So notice that we made it lowercase and then uppercase for each successive word as camel casing, and that's what we use to call out variables and functions and objects and stuff. Just that's how it's written. So first word lower, next the successive words after that are going to be uppercase. And then what we want to do is give the parameters. The parameters are the things that were inside the brackets, or inside the parentheses, sorry. And we're going to call that year because that's what we're going to be inputting in there. And basically, these parameters are sort of like local variables. So we could use that through locally within that function. And that's going to call back to that. So it's going to take when we return it later, which we'll go over later. When we return it later, we put that in there. That's going to be that number that's going to go through the function as well. And then, of course, you want to enclose it in brackets, as you can see here. So next, what we want to do is go through the first rule. The first rule is leap year is any year that's divisible by 400. So what we first want to do is we want to use an expression that's going to produce a true false. So we want to use comparative expressions that's going to give us a true false statement at the end. In this case, so if you can see here, we take that year that we called, but you can kind of see we take the year right there. So it's going to take whatever we put in this when we invoke the function later. Whatever we put in the parentheses is going to take that. And then it's going to divide it by 400. This little thing here is the modulus, and it's basically going to divide it and give us a remainder. So this is 400. So if we have 400 divided by 400, it's going to give us 0, and then the equal sign. So equals 0. So if we did that, that would be a true statement. This is how we make things divisible, is using this modulus. Modulus equals number that we want it divisible by equals 0. So that's our first step. Next, we want to call out, or we want to pass it through the other rules. And so we want to so we take that section and we have it wrapped in parentheses as I showed before, and then we want to use the 2 lines to say or. So basically this little line here, let's hold it down. that or, that's like the two straight lines down. So it's going to be this or this equal true, then it's going to be true. If one of them's false, then it's going to return false. So you use this when you're, these are like logical operators, so they use these when you have like two different variables that you're trying to, and see we're using year again, so we're kind of using this local variable again. So it's like two different variables. So you use that in between that to compare the whole variable section. And we want to use the other rules. So we want to take the year, and it's got to be divisible by 4, so we're going to use that modulus again. And we want that to equal 0 because it's divisible by 4. But we also, of the remaining years, it can't be divisible by 100, as stated before. So we don't want that to equal 0. So it's going to be anything else besides that. So you could write it as follows. So we have the year, modulus 4 equals 0. And then and, so we write the and signs back to back. It's going to compare both. It's going to run both these, because both these things have to be true in order for it to be a leap year, because it's of the whole remaining years. So and the year, modulus 100. And then when you want something to not equal something, you use the exclamation mark equal sign. So that means not equal. So when we divide it by 100, it's not going to be 0. So it's not divisible by 100. And then, of course, we end it with a semicolon, and we throw in the brackets too. So we're closing out the brackets. So all the function has to be in the curly brackets. And then another note, when we do return, that's going to end the execution of the function. So if we wanted to put more in after we put this, it's not going to show up. It's just going to run this first part because we returned it. So you want to make sure the return is at the end when you have when you use all your statements that you want the function to do. You want to make sure that that's at the end. Otherwise, you're not going to capture all of them. And that is the function. So if we test it, I tested it. I know. I'll pull up my phone here in a second and actually show you. But so like 2012 would be true. It's a leap year because it meets all these qualifications. So this would be true. This would be true. And this or this is true equals true. And then 2010 is false because it doesn't meet that. One of these requirements makes it false, so it's this or this equals false is false, so it returns false. And then I went ahead and did my birth year, 1984, and that actually is a leap year, which I didn't know. So through this, I learned that I was born in a leap year. So I have my phone here, and I have REPL it up, and I can show you. Try to show you. So we have the function that we just discussed. So we have that, and right now we tried all these ones, and they matched. And here's the 1984. See, the reason I do the double slashes into gray mouse, so because it'll just return the top one. If you have multiple ones, it'll just return that top one. So I went ahead and just took those out and did 1984, and then we press run. Oops, sorry. Okay. And it returns true here at the bottom. So that is a quick rundown on how I came up with that answer. If you Platoon, if you like this, remember to like and subscribe at the bottom, because you're supposed to say that after YouTube clips. All right. Hopefully I'll see you soon. Thank you.